Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Hello and welcome to the WrestleRamble number 9. This is Luke Owen, I'm Oli Davis, and today we'll be reviewing Raw and Smackdown, including Braun Strowman beating up a wrestling ring and Jinder Mahal getting a championship opportunity, and deciding which show was the better of the two. If you want to go straight to those discussions, click the timestamps in the video description below, or stay right here for some Ramble chat. Hey Luke, how you doing?
Doing very well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good after an Easter, and we should probably get this out of the way now. The show's a different name.
Yeah, it's been rebranded after just 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, it's gone through 2 different names in 2 weeks, so it's getting a different name every week at the moment. At first it was The WrestleTalk Show, then we altered it slightly to That WrestleTalk Show, like That's So Raven. That was the inspiration.
Not Raven as in, quote the Raven, nevermore.
No, Raven, the Disney kids TV show.
Yes.
Was it Nickelodeon?
I think it was a Disney one. I only really know of That's So Raven because when you go onto eBay to look for Raven-related products, which I am wont for doing, you often find either stuff for That's So Raven or the character from Teen Titans.
And now it's called WrestleRamble. A lot of people said, because at the start of the things, we talk in a ramble chat, and you said rumble chat, because that's a wrestling theme, as in the Royal Rumble, and then a lot of people, the same people I feel like, who just a week before were saying, yeah, That WrestleTalk Show, call it That WrestleTalk Show. Everyone was like, actually, Rumble Chat's better.
Yeah.
Call it Rumble Chat.
Or the Royal Ramble.
Or the Royal Ramble. I think someone else has the Royal Ramble. That's why we can't use that one. I think it's a good guy called Stuart who used to make videos for WrestleZone. I wouldn't want to step on his toes.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, but the Rumble chat I thought was good. I said that to someone. I bounced that idea off someone, and they were like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, yeah, it doesn't really say wrestling in there. So WrestleRamble.
The WrestleRamble.
The WrestleRamble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get used to it. We'll get used to
I mean, that's
that.
pretty rambly. How was your Easter sand chocolate?
It was fine, actually. Thank you for all the kind comments in the video that we did when I announced that I was not eating chocolate for the year, including the guy who told me that I was very thin and therefore do not need to not eat chocolate. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, is thin? See, I've always thought thin's a bad thing. I wouldn't like to be called thin. I think it's like the opposite fat.
That's because you're you want to be a bulky dude. You essentially want to be The Rock.
Yeah, I do want to be The Rock.
As Jerry Lawler would say, you want muscles in places where people don't have places.
Yep, that would be good, to invent a few parts of my body just for muscliness.
Yes.
Yeah.
But whereas I am fine with how I am, I'm just a bit on the schlubby side because I'm getting married in October. I need to try and look as best as I can for the wedding suit, which obviously you'll need to do as well as part of the wedding party.
Yeah, I'm like a freaking mannequin. Put a suit on me and it hangs perfectly already.
Yeah.
No, I need to do more exercise.
But apart from that, did you watch any wrestling over your Easter holiday?
I must admit, I had quite a nice break after all of the WrestleMania weekend. I really did overindulge in wrestling. I wouldn't even call it overindulge, because me overindulging in wrestling is maybe watching the Raw, SmackDown in one week, obviously, a pay-per-view, and there's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on the same night. I'll watch that the next morning. Or maybe there's a New Japan show somewhere in there. I'll watch that. So that would only ever equate to about 10 hours of wrestling in a week period.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot.
If you add in a job and sleep and general socializing.
Making these amazing videos.
Yeah, which is my work, yeah, so that sort of factors in. But that WrestleMania week was just wrestling. I would get up, watch wrestling, and by the end of it, to a lot of people, that sounds like a dream. But I nearly broke me. Nearly made me... I was that close to hating wrestling. Hating WWE. I would actually... Hating WWE's style of wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I think I could watch Japanese people hit each other very hard all day long.
Yeah, all the live long day.
So this was a nice weekend. We went away to Margate.
I saw on Facebook you went away.
Yeah, and right in the arse end of the Garden of England, Kent, where my grandparents live. My granddad said, "Oh, so what are you doing these days?" And I had to explain to him the concept of YouTube and kind of summarize what I do. He just very kindly nodded.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we moved on. Want another scone? Yes.
Yes, I will.
And a cup of tea with sugars. If I go to my nan's house, I have milk and sugar in my tea.
Why?
Because it's just, I used to have milky, sugary tea there when I was a kid.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very weird.
How about you? That was How about your Easter?
Oh, well, mine was fine. I was with the in-laws. We watched some movies. I watched some good movies. I've stopped my 2001 run of watching Raws, and I decided...
You finished 2000?
No, oh God, no. I just decided to stop where I was at that point because I suddenly had a real urge to watch the build for King of the Ring 1999.
Tell me about it. I get this urge all the time.
Yeah,
I'll be out somewhere, maybe shopping. You know what? Just pack it in, leave the trolley there. We're going home and watching the build to the 99 King of the Ring.
I want to watch 4 episodes of Raw, each which is an hour and a half each, leading up to the pay-per-view, and then not watch the pay-per-view.
Oh, so you don't even watch the King of the Ring?
I've seen King of the Ring 1999 a few times. That was one of the ones that my friend had on VHS, so we used to watch that one a lot. So
it's Silver Vision release.
Yeah, so the pay-per-view I've seen like loads of times, so I don't really need to see it again.
So what's so good about the 99 King of the Ring? Of course, the year before was
Ken
the
Shamrock.
Infamous... Oh, I'm thinking... Oh, was 97 Mankind Undertaker?
Oh, no, sorry.
No,
I thought you meant the winner. The winner was... Yes.
I just meant the pay-per-view event.
It was the infamous Mankind Undertaker Hell in a Cell, but more importantly, Ken Shamrock won the King of the Ring.
But what about 99?
Well, 99 was the year that the King of the Ring really wasn't a factor in the pay-per-view. It was kind of like the first point where like the King of the Ring tournament felt like it was hindering the storylines that Vince Russo wanted to tell. And the reason why I wanted to watch that like 4-week period to build up the pay-per-view is it perfectly encapsulates Vince Russo as a writer. Vince and Ed Ferreira as writers. Because you've got The Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness. He is the minister, the overlord. He comes out speaking in tongues. It's my favourite Undertaker gimmick when he just looks like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer baddie. And then he merges with the corporation and they become the corporate ministry.
Was that around this time?
It was around this time,
My memory's hazy.
And you've got the Dark Wedding when the Undertaker was trying to marry Stephanie and Austin comes down and breaks it up. Tremendous. That's not in the build to...
Could have done wonders for his career, that.
Could have done. It was like that wasn't actually factoring into the build because the build to King of the Ring is when it's revealed that Vince McMahon was the Howard Power that
excuse me.
Do you remember at Backlash 1999? The Undertaker is like he's doing his backstage like spiel to his ministry, and he's meant to say the arrival of the higher power, but instead he goes the arrival of the Howard Power.
Oh, the Howard Power.
So funny. So Vince McMahon is revealed to be the Howard Power. And that's with the, it's me, Austin! Son of a bitch. Great reveal. Because it was Vince McMahon's plan to get the belt off Austin, which at one point included keeping the belt on Austin. It was a complete... Again, Vince Russo just writing on the fly.
Yeah, that sounds like... I mean, they still do stuff like that. Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to save Kevin Owens by turning on Kevin Owens and not telling him.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring this up because I literally just listened to a podcast where it mentions... It's Solomonster, a big fan of it. In the mailbag section, someone asked him about the higher power.
Oh, really? The Howard Power?
The Howard Power.
Yeah.
He didn't call it the Howard Power. This is new to me. I don't remember this bit. But he said originally... Vince Russo's guy to be unveiled as this. Do you know this?
It was Cyrus.
Was Christopher Daniels.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, I've always heard that it was Cyrus the Virus from ECW, the Jackal as he was in the WWF.
Cyrus the Virus is Con Air.
Yes, but he was also Cyrus the Virus in ECW as well. Nara. Yeah. So good. But yeah, so I always thought it was going to be the Jackal.
Oh, no, apparently. So Vince Russo, a few people have corroborated this, including Ed Ferrara and Bruce Pritchard. I think Bruce Pritchard spoke about it on a recent podcast as well. And yeah, so I'm not really sure how Vince Russo knew who Chris Daniels was at that time, but Chris Daniels' career goes back to, I think, the early 90s, before 95.
Yeah.
He's been around ages.
He has been around a long time. Yeah,
so that would have been a bit crazy.
Cool. I mean, yeah, it would have been. It's like, okay, so you got Vince McMahon reveals he's the Howard Power. And then you've got The Undertaker wins the WWF Championship. And Austin becomes the CEO of WWF. Because Linda and Stephanie make him the new CEO. And then it builds towards a ladder match at King of the Ring between Austin and Shane and Vince. A handicap ladder match with the ownership of the WWF on the line. That in a 4-week build. That's like 4 months, 6 months worth of story.
That is a hot shot.
Like that's 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks of angles.
From start to finish?
It's all that story.
Vince McMahon being unveiled.
Yep, all of that story. It's so great because it's madcap booking, And that's kind of what I love about Vince Russo's reign. It perfectly encapsulates that. Oh, it was a wonderful, wonderful few weeks. It's just madness.
So that was your Easter holiday?
No, I watched that after I saw The In-Laws, and I had a bit of time to myself.
Yeah.
And I watched through some 1999 WWF Raws, because there was only Raw at that point. There wasn't SmackDown yet.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about some 2017 Raw?
I suppose so.
So we had the post-WrestleMania episode of Raw, we had the Superstar Shake-Up episode of Raw, and then this week was the first week where I felt pretty bored for the majority of Raw.
Do you remember, so this is not a hot take.
Yeah.
Raw's very long.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it feels very long. But the last couple of weeks, because you had the post-WrestleMania show and then you had the Superstar Shake-Up, all of a sudden it's like, Raw doesn't feel like it's 3 hours. This is flying by. And then this is the first week where suddenly it's like, oh yeah, Raw's really long, isn't it? Yeah, and it is. It's tough sometimes. Really tough.
And this was a good show. They didn't do anything terribly wrong. There wasn't anything that annoyed me. You had Jeff Hardy and Cesaro in a match. And I'm like, I can tell they're putting on a pretty good match. They're jumping off of stuff. I like Cesaro. Jeff Hardy's first singles competition, actually, in the WWE since forever. And here I am, kind of looking at my watch.
Yeah, well, do you know what?
I started to make some eggs.
I had the same thing during...
I watch it in the morning.
I had the same thing with Joe Jericho.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, Chris Jericho, a match, I'd be like, oh man, this should be fantastic. And I just sort of, all of a sudden I had this realization, it's like, oh, this is a long show. I know it's the first match in, but I'm like, I'm going to be here for a while watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of, and then, during the Jeff Hardy Cesaro match, I very, very much felt it.
And it's weird because a lot of the wrestling itself got a decent amount of time for a change.
Even the cruiserweights.
Yeah, they went over the normal 5-minute limit. I thought that was actually, you know what, that might have been my favourite match on the show. Jack Gallagher versus TJ Perkins. But then you've got, because they had a great exchange at the start. They just let Gallagher do his thing. And TJ Perkins works so much better as a dabbing asshole.
Exactly. There's a point that you and I have had on this podcast, this vodcast before.
Whatever
this
this
show, whatever this is.
WrestleRamble.
I've said that Dolph Ziggler annoys me because he's turned heel and changed nothing about himself. And now it's just like, well, you're still acting like a babyface, I think, but you're just acting like a dick.
Yeah.
Whereas TJ Perkins has always been quite unlikable, despite the fact that he's just like, he's got this cool, fun music. It's kind of like one of my favorite themes in WWF.
Well,
it sounds like Mega Man 2.
Video game man,
exactly,
yeah.
It sounds like Mega Man 2. And he does all these big flip-de-doos and stuff, and he's always talking about Nintendo 64. So I'm like, oh, mate, you're quite unlikable, you are. And then when he does like the whole dab lark, and I'm like, oh, I can see why people are turning on you. Which is fine.
Even people turned on Bill Goldberg's son when he dabbed.
You don't need to change anything about the TJ Perkins character, because he was already a heel.
Yeah.
Masquerading as a babyface.
Sorry, have you heard what people call Goldberg's son?
No.
Sunberg.
Very clever.
That makes me
I'd
laugh
have gone with
a lot.
Childberg.
Childberg? Yeah, I guess you could do that. Sunberg's more to the point.
Yeah.
You got less syllables.
Childberg lettuce.
You also had, on top of that match, you had Austin Aries and Neville at ringside. So it also, I love it when they do this. It kind of seems overbooked, but I like it when you've got something going on in the ring and then like almost another narrative on the outside. I think it really strengthens the whole match as a whole. The best example, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but the Dude Love Stone Cold match.
Yes.
With Vince McMahon and people on the timekeeping.
Like Pat Patterson was the timekeeper. Yeah, and it was Gerald Briscoe was the timekeeper, and Pat Patterson was the ring announcer, because you're like, of all people, why pick Pat Patterson, who's like, English clearly is not his first language, because he'll just stumble over every word he's given.
Yeah, so that sort of match where you've got all these opportunities to tell different stories. And Aries, you see when he came out?
Yes.
And he gets the banana, which seems to be a rather phallical thing that he's doing.
That's his WWE gimmick, because he was doing that in NXT as well.
Was he?
Just eating bananas during interviews, yeah.
And talking about his package.
Yep.
Oh, this is Vince McMahon. This is why Vince McMahon obviously likes him so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin Aries sits down next to Neville and offers him a bite. And Neville looks disgusted, moves away.
So good.
So that was good. What else happened on Raw?
Well,
Finn Balor came back.
Finn Balor came back, yeah. So Finn Balor...
After a week.
Yeah, knocked loopy by Jinder's elbow. Apparently, he was cleared enough to wrestle a 30-second match against Kurt Hawkins, and he had the match with Kurt Hawkins that he probably should have had with Jinder Mahal, a week ago.
Totally, yeah.
36 seconds, that's all you needed. And it was a great showcase for the Demon.
Yeah, but little did we know, Jinder would be getting a WWE Championship opportunity.
I know we'll come on to that, but we'll save it for the SmackDown chat.
We'll save that.
Whoa. But anyway, so Finn's come back, and I think, Bray, they keep talking about the Bray Wyatt feud and everything like that. I think it's my biggest criticism, and I think we're going to do another video on this at some point, but the problem I've really got with the Superstar shake-up is that because everything feels so last minute, they're kind of like just trying to rework things, and nothing really makes sense anymore. And the other problem I've got with the Superstar shake-up, specifically on a Raw side of things, at least SmackDown felt quite fresh with new faces on there, but with Raw, all of a sudden I'm watching The Miz and Dean Ambrose feuding, and I'm like, weren't they feuding on SmackDown?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't the point of the Superstar shake-up was to put new faces into the mix, not just move the same feuds across? And as soon as they started, doing their Miz TV segment, I tuned out because I've seen this before. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah, that was a weird one. We're talking that'll be episode 11 on Saturday. We'll talk more about the Superstar shake-up and how last minute the booking seems to have been. Particularly some weird stuff about Dean Ambrose that a few things have pointed out. Maybe he's been punished in some way.
Yes.
Finn Balor's back. Miz and Dean Ambrose. Yeah, that is a weird one. I do miss Maurice as Nikki Bella. That was the thing I was most disappointed about, though.
Here's my thing. What I've got
somehow hotter than both Nikki Bella and Maurice.
Okay, so that aside, here's my overall thoughts on Raw this week. It was a really boring show, and I'm struggling to think of things to talk about from a 3-hour show, apart from Braun Strowman. The whole show was built around Braun, but apart from that, it felt like nothing else was given anything. Like, there were some fun matches, yeah, but it was just time filler between all the Braun stuff.
Well, Alexa Bliss became the number one contender for Bayley's champ. I thought that was a good match. It was a bit ropey in parts, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked the story of the three women teaming up against Nia Jax, and I really like how Alexa Bliss managed to make storyline feuds with everyone.
Yes.
So one match, you just pop her in there, all of a sudden, you know what, I wouldn't mind Bliss having a feud with any of these people.
Here's a hot take. Alexa Bliss is very, very good. For someone who's not been doing this for a very long time, she is someone who was just, like, when she was first in NXT and she was like she was the pixie, where she was just like this cheerleader girl who blew fairy dust over people and was just like, hey, look, I'm Alexa Bliss, and cheer me, woo! And then as soon as she turned heel and aligned herself with Blake and Murphy...
That was it. I was trying to remember who that was.
Yeah, poor old Blake and Murphy. Whatever happened to them, eh? Yeah, whatever happened to them. And then all of a sudden she just came into her own. And then when she moved up to SmackDown from the draft last year, I thought, oh, that's a bit soon. It's a bit early to be moving up Alexa. She really could have done with refining herself in NXT a bit more. But she's come up with this, she's just really grown into her character. And as an in-ring performer, she's pretty good. And
she's passable.
But she's passable.
It's weird when you can't have a good match with Becky Lynch, though.
Yes.
Like, that worries me.
Yeah.
If she would go against Nia Jax,
but
I would worry for her health.
I will always praise someone who can at least get into their character and can portray their character in such a convincing manner where I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I totally buy you as that character. It's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Dana Brooke. I just think that Dana Brooke is, weak sauce in a ring. She's greener than grass. But as soon as she was in NXT, she knew who she was and she knew her character and she was wonderful at being that character. It's unfortunate. Yes, loved all that.
Yeah.
I loved her at ringside during Emma's matches where she would just shout advice and shout at the referee. Oh, it was great.
She's good at shouting in matches, even when she's one-on-one. She's like, yeah, you're a nerd.
Yeah, so great. But, I mean, in the ring, she's not particularly great.
No.
And now they've turned her babyface, and I don't know what they're doing with her.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real shame. Because especially
because Emma right there, just pair them back up again.
But they're not doing that because, unless they are going to lead to them reuniting, I guess. Like, maybe Emma's going to be proved right and that Dana's just going to become her sidekick again.
You know how Vince McMahon gets ideas lodged in his head? I'm going to make Roman Reigns a super babyface. I think he's seen Dana Brooke and gone, Well, she's perfect to be the Batista breakout role in a group.
Yeah.
So she's tried it with Charlotte as the protege. That was meant to be the WrestleMania match this year.
Yeah.
Dana Brooke versus Charlotte.
Oh man, could you imagine?
Dana as the baby
Could
face.
you imagine if they'd actually done it?
Well, if Dana Brooke turned out as a decent enough performer,
Hmm.
or wrestler rather, they could have had a cracking match, but unfortunately, she can't even do basic things like grabbing someone's leg when they bounce off the ropes.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we talk about Monday Night Brawn?
Yes, let's talk about Braun.
So he starts off the night. He opens the show, doesn't he, after deadlifting an ambulance the previous week?
The biggest babyface on Raw.
Yeah, they cut to a few signs in the crowd. Thank you, Strowman.
Yep.
Which is just, Kevin Dunn has seen those posters.
He's decided to focus on those.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't get what you're trying to do.
Again, because they're trying to push this whole idea, because there's like Triple H in interviews always does this as well. It's like, well, if you boo Roman, then he's a heel to you. So like all these people, they're cheering Strowman as the babyface. So they're just like, yeah, these people, this small set of people think he's the babyface, but you should boo them because he's actually a heel.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
in
anyway.
a perfect world, they all want Roman to be cheered. They want Roman to be this huge
totally,
babyface. Yeah. Anyway, so Braun comes out. He's like, I did this last week. I took out Roman Reigns. He's not going to be here tonight. Whoa! And then Kurt comes out and says, what you did was bad. You're going to be suspended. I thought he said you are suspended. Someone corrected me and said, he just said you should be suspended. You've got the night off.
Yeah.
But something happened
I
there.
could say I heard it's that you've got the night off.
Yeah. Okay.
Because Braun's out there doing his whole I want some competition. He's doing the great,
I want competition.
Yeah, he's doing the great Carly. Do you remember when Carly used to come out and do that all the time when he
blanked
first
out a
debuted?
lot of Carly's
Yeah,
stuff.
Carly used to come a lot go, I want some competition. It was that was
Not
my-
racist, it's
No,
just
it
an
was-
impression.
That's
An impression.
That was my great Carly impression.
Yeah. And then later on, he got that competition by throwing Stardust. Gold dust through a gate and then beating up R-Truth. My favourite line of the night, though, came when the camera just cuts backstage. Strowman is dragging Kalisto along by the mask, it seems, like a limp
for God's
corpse.
sake, the whole point of the Superstar Shake-Up, in theory, is to like give people a fresh start and give people some new opportunities. Kalisto's been on Raw for 2 weeks now and has done nothing but be dragged by Braun Strowman and thrown in a bin.
I put you in the bin. That's where you belong. It was something along the lines of that.
Like that. Then you got Apollo Crews, like apparently teaming up with Titus O'Neil of all people.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
It's
guys.
quite transparent. Who can we get to replace David Otunga on commentary? Booker T, obviously.
Obviously.
And then, Braun Strowman eventually got his match against the Big Show. You know what? I thought that was very well done. The way the Big Show came out of nowhere after
It was beating out Kalisto,
was dumped in the dumpster. And Big Show was like, why don't you pick on someone your own size? And I love the stories where you've got bullies and someone stands up to the bully.
Totally.
And I thought that was a real good moment. And I was like, yeah. And then later on, the actual match, just 2 months ago, in the main event, when Mick Foley put on this match, the whole show was based around people reinforcing the ring, making sure it won't fall down, and it didn't fall down. What happened this time?
Well, this is what happens when you've got a new GM.
Yeah.
Who really hasn't he hasn't watched the previous Raws, so he didn't know what was going to happen. So he's there backstage going like,
we didn't
reinforce the ring. Yeah, sorry, I should have thought that because it's happened with Big Show a lot. It happened when he fought Brock Lesnar, and it happened when he was feuding with Mark Henry. We should have known that every time.
I love that Mark Henry one.
Oh, I love
that was one of my favourite ones.
That was a great
That was the Hall of Pain era, wasn't it?
Yeah,
great
really Mark Henry stuff. It took him a long time to get there, but
he got there eventually.
It was a long trip, but it was worth it.
Just shy of 2 decades.
But yeah, so you'd have thought that Kurt Angle would have seen those matches and be like, we should probably reinforce this ring because every time Show gets in that superplex position, stuff collapses.
You know what I didn't realise, and it was a dead giveaway, and a lot of people have pointed it out since. They didn't have the LED ring posts.
Oh, did they not?
And of course, because they're a fortune.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want those to collapse.
Of course, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah, but I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
A lot of people have given the feedback of they do this, or I've seen this before, this is old. I think they space it out perfectly enough where it looks great. I loved it.
It was really weird because I felt like, when I watched it, I was like, I felt the same way. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this very recently. And I was like, oh, I'm a bit... And then I suddenly thought about it and I was like, actually, no, I haven't seen this in ages.
Because you've been watching those old Raws,
Maybe
man.
that's what it is. I'm throwing myself... I'm in such a time loop and a time warp of different eras that I don't know what's new anymore.
How does that work when you're watching... It's like watching Prometheus and Alien at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that was once a thing.
It's fine because...
The two concurrent continuities.
It's fine because the rosters are so vastly different.
Yeah, I guess.
Mostly, anyway. I mean, there's a couple of, like, same faces.
Smackdown, however, I thought was a much more enjoyable romp.
Much, much better show. This was
it
a show.
romp? I would call it a romp.
This was a show that made better use of its superstar shake-up, I felt.
Yeah, was there anyone who, I guess Shinsuke Nakamura wasn't on the show at all?
Nope.
Ty Dillinger got a nice little backstage interview thing, though. Hey, we're in the Smackdown bit. Can I talk about a Raw thing?
I mean,
it's a 3-hour show. It's hard to keep to just 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thought the Drifter was very good.
I mean, there could be still the Drifter, though.
So I haven't seen all his stuff in NXT, but I think the way they're handling... Did he ever used to do this in NXT? Just walk around the back, walk through the crowd?
Yeah, but he used to come out to, like, interrupt matches doing it. The Drifter, ironically enough, the first time I enjoyed the Drifter was on his last NXT show, which is the
mask.
When he was El Vagabondo. I was like, that's genius. And it was so good that the crowd who hate the Drifter turned around and started booing Oni Lorcan for beating him up and for winning the match because everyone was into El Vagabondo.
Hey man, we're talking about SmackDown.
Sorry.
Can we get back on track with SmackDown?
Sorry.
So it was 2 hours. I watched it this morning because, of course, we can't stay up that late.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. It's just after the because that was the first 3-hour Raw that I felt, we're back. Yeah, it's 3 hours. I kind of forgot it was 3 hours. And to watch SmackDown this morning, it was almost over before I knew it.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Like, it was 10 minutes from the end, and I thought, is this the main event?
Yeah.
It's the main event. There's 10 minutes of the show left.
But look what they did with the Superstar Shake-Up. You had Charlotte come out and open the show and instantly put herself into the SmackDown Women's title picture.
Yep.
So that's already a feud that's set up there. You had the Colognes establish themselves as a big team within the SmackDown division by beating American Alpha.
Not the colons.
No.
I had to re-record today's Raw.
SmackDown.
SmackDown review, just because when I read it, sometimes I just don't... the amount of times I had to pronounce Anoa'i. Because of poor Rosie.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to screw this up. It's an RIP thing. So I got a little video up, watched it over and over again. Anoa'i, Sika.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had that with, and I used to do the old WrestleTalk news way back when. And it was when, I can't even remember the lad's name now who got inducted into the Hall of Fame, the New Japan lad.
The great...
it's going to be so
no.
annoying.
No.
And it wasn't Antonio Inoki. No, it was... Anyway,
okay,
there was a guy who got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I kept messing his name up when I was...
I think just a few people might tell us who that is in the comments.
I think they might do as well.
Yeah.
Just like the few people that kept reminding us or kept telling me that Lana was in that match at WrestleMania.
But I did say she was, and you were like, no, she wasn't.
I thought she was taking over. I genuinely do not remember her being in that match.
It's a pre-show match. It's not continuity.
It doesn't matter anyway. So anyway, so you've got Charlotte coming out. You've got the Colognes establishing themselves as a tag team talent. You've got Kevin Owens. It's got its own segment now on SmackDown. Where
and a squash match.
Great. So he's there. And you've got a new feud with him and AJ Styles that's set up within the main event in a match against Baron Corbin. And you've got Don't Hinder the Jinder, a new...
Oh, Macho Man does not like Jinder.
The ghost of Randy Savage is not a fan. It nearly did. Yeah. You've now got Don't Hinder the Jinder as the new number one contender for the WWE Championship.
So should we talk about that? Because I feel like, aside from the use... Oh, it's completely down. Yeah. The overuse of the phrase championship opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Which not only everybody said in the opening segment, but Tom Phillips just every other line in the number one contenders matches.
They did it on, again, to go back to Raw, when they're trying to establish now that Seth is called the Kingslayer. They just said it over and over again. It's like when Finn Balor debuted last summer. King. They kept saying the Demon King, the Demon King. They just they get something into their head that they have to hammer home, and so the way to hammer it home is to just say it over and over again. And that's the way that championship opportunity gets hammered home.
And it's not just annoying, like really annoying. Yeah. It also makes nothing sound real. Everything then sounds scripted. And for something that is inherently fake in the first place, you don't want to be reminded it's so fake. You want everything to kind of be as naturalistic as possible.
JBL was annoying as all hell in that match as well, talking about the land of opportunity. Make yourself a star. This is the land of opportunity. Grab that opportunity. I'm like, shut up, John. Shut up, man.
And Jinder did. Jinder did with the help of the Bollywood boys.
Now, okay, so I'm there, I'm watching the six-pack challenge, and out comes Eric Rowan, and out comes...
Strong lineup.
Out comes Sami Zayn, and out comes all these lads. And all of a sudden, Luke Harper comes out, and I was like, well, there's your guy. That's who's winning.
You thought, it makes sense.
I was like, well, that
Randy
makes
Orton,
sense.
Luke Harper.
That makes perfect sense. I'm like, well, okay, obviously Luke Harper's going to win this then. And then there was a point when Jinder got a near fall, and I nearly went, oof. For a second, I thought Jinder might win this.
But that's ridiculous.
I was like, that's madness. But man, I thought Jinder might win this for a second, and then he won. And I was a double take. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah,
cool. Jinder is a number one contender. He gets a championship opportunity. Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton is your pay-per-view
championship opportunity.
Is your pay-per-view main event in Chicago.
Is it a pay-per-view?
Yes, it's a pay-per-view.
So I'm assuming it's Backlash.
Yes.
Because Payback and Backlash, for once we're right.
Yes.
I thought it was just going to be a match on TV.
No, this is a pay-per-view match.
In Chicago.
In Chicago. I mean, if ever there was a match that the Chicago crowd might just turn on, it would be Jinder Mahal, the man who knocked out Finn Balor because he's clumsy against Randy Orton.
It was a mistake. Let's not be too hard on Jinder, because a lot of people have gone off on Jinder.
Well, I mean,
accidents happen.
Accidents in the ring do happen. Shinsuke Nakamura knocked out Austin Aries. Tyson Kidd will probably never wrestle again because of an accident. Droz will never walk again because of an accident that happened in the ring. However, Jinder threw that elbow too hard. Mm-hmm. This is a fake sport. This is not real, mate. You don't have to hit him as hard as you possibly can. And step into it as well.
Yeah. I thought Finn was running.
And Finn was running.
You can see how it would go wrong.
I can see how it went wrong. I just thought it was careless.
Yeah?
That's what I will say.
But again, accidents do happen.
Accidents do happen.
And so Brian Alvarez put out a tweet. He's the guy from the Wrestling Observer. And I think last week they had Justin Roberts on. And Justin Roberts, they asked him, does Vince McMahon ever make decisions purely to annoy the fans? And Brian Alvarez tweeted this in response to Jinder winning the week after he clobbered Finn Balor and gave him a reported concussion. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not as... I didn't realise it was a pay-per-view main event. That is a bit weird. Because now you'll have AJ Styles and Kevin Owens main eventing that show, really.
Yes.
For the US title.
Yeah, that's the real draw of the
Or maybe it will even go on last.
Oh, it will definitely go on last. But here's the thing. I'm no fan of Jinder Mahal because I'm just not a fan of Jinder Mahal. It's not I'm not down on him because he knocked out Finn Balor. I've never been a fan of Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, he looks great, but there's nothing. He's not got whatever it is.
He doesn't have.
And
it's a shame because he was getting very much booed by the audience. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, actually, he could be a viable top heel. Not a top heel, but it could be a valuable mid-card heel in this role. And that'd be great, especially as, obviously, I was clocking back to Muhammad Hassan in that 2006-2007 era of SmackDown. And Muhammad Hassan was a great character, and it was perfect for that time as well, when America just hated anyone who wasn't American. And he was great, and he was feuding with The Undertaker, and it worked really well. They just did a very tasteless angle, very, very tasteless angle, and that led to the demise of Muhammad Hassan. But he was pegged to be World Heavyweight Champion. And I think now with Jinder, if you want to run that same, I think they're kind of going with that same angle with Jinder, just not as extreme as they did it with Muhammad Hassan, but they're doing that like, oh, you Americans, you hate diversity, and you hate this, and you're all a bunch of racists. They're going to run with that with Jinder, especially now he's got his new heel faction. He's got his Bollywood boys to back him up. Bollywood boys, the nicest looking chaps, the happiest looking lovely chaps, are now bad guys.
It's weird. It's kind of problematic. Although I'm very excited about a heel faction, just because I like factions.
As we went on about last week.
And they're a new bunch of guys. I want to see what they do with them. I'm not counting it out completely. I am actually curious. But there is something kind of problematic because diversity is meant to be a good thing in the larger moral storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a bad guy using diversity to get heat.
Oh, totally.
So as a company that really pushes, hey, don't be a star, don't bully, diversity's cool, LGBTQT, XYZ, you one big happy family.
We're all one and the same.
And then you use one of your main bad guys to say, I love diversity. Boo! You suck!
You're terrible because you're not one of us.
Yeah.
Boo!
Boo! Tolerance!
Randy Orton should win. He's white.
Yeah. And he stepped on a snake. And that's kind of like something in our constitution. So, yeah. Yeah, but SmackDown overall was good. So who had the better show? Should we make this a weekly thing?
We can certainly try to. Yeah.
Depends if people like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a weekly Raw, SmackDown versus Raw.
Yeah.
Who won?
I mean, God, that's a great concept. If only there was like a series of video games that did that.
No. I think you should. If you're going to make a video game, it should be based around rock catchphrases.
Yeah. Or I would also say Day of Reckoning, where you could do an elbow drop from the top of a helicopter.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good. So who do you think
think
had the better show, SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
SmackDown. I'm going to go with SmackDown.
It was easily, and what I will say as well is that I don't. This is a great weekly segment, but I feel that SmackDown will be the answer most weeks.
Yeah, not all the time. It's just that I think overall quality-wise, they both were pretty much neck and neck, but one of them was 150% the length it needed to be.
Yeah,
So it was an hour longer than it needed to be. Whereas SmackDown, boom, left me wanting more.
I think that SmackDown made better use of its superstar shake-up, and it has created some new championship opportunities and created more storylines than Raw did, which was just Braun again.
Click the videos to the left to catch up with the last episode of WrestleRamble, that's its new name, I nearly forgot, and of course, to check out the latest episode of the WrestleTalk news. This is Luke Owen, I've been Oli Davis, and that was WrestleRamble.